This small reprieve from the dynamic can also be used to wisely segregate elements of role play, bratting, punishments, and even dynamic-based training, correction, and punishments from true and hurtful grievances that need to be discussed. If you haven't watched part 1 of this mini-series, you can check it out in this video's description below. But as a quick recap, we covered the 5 main keys to adding a DS dynamic into your existing relationship, which included the fact that your partnership should always supersede your power dynamic. The fact that DS is not a fix-all for relationships and will often magnify any unresolved issues you may have with your partner. DS also will not build devotion that is inherently lacking in your relationship. And in most cases, authentic 24/7 BDSM relationships are unrealistic. And that is why a clearly defined structure for your dynamic is necessary before any roles or play begins. And that is why determining the structure of your DS dynamic should be the primary focus of your initial negotiations. Do you want a dynamic-wide arrangement that operates at low protocol? Or do you want a scene-specific arrangement that demands high protocol? So think of high protocol as the maximum power gap that can be created for a scene or short-term play. This is how you want your DS dynamic to look during scheduled scenes, kink events, vacations, etc. In contrast is low protocol, which is the maximum power gap that can be consistently maintained on a long-term basis. Essentially, this is how you want your DS dynamic to look all of the time, except during required vanilla activities like work or family functions. High protocol is all about creating a very drastic power gap, whereas low protocol is about fostering a sustainable power gap. And this structure must be determined first before any other discussions can take place. But once you determine what type of structure you want for your dynamic, the next step in negotiation is to determine your scene and dynamic boundaries. In a low protocol dynamic wide arrangement, these boundaries are the fence line that creates a clear distinction between when a couple is engaging in a consensual DS dynamic and when they're operating within an equal partnership. In a high protocol scene-specific arrangement, these boundaries are the fence line that creates a clear distinction between the words, attitudes, and behaviors allowed in a consensual BDSM scene versus when these words, attitudes, and behaviors are unacceptable. In either case, you must determine what the limits are, what safe words communicate these limits have been reached, and what actions will be subsequently taken to honor the safety and well-being of all parties involved. These boundaries are important regardless of what type of DS dynamic you have arranged, but especially so in a 24/7 or dynamic-wide arrangement. And I say this because although the term 24/7 describes ongoing DS dynamics, authentic 24/7 is unrealistic in most cases. You still have to go to work, pay bills, care for loved ones, and have hard conversations about your relationship, as we discussed last week. Well, for your 24/7 dynamic, you need to know when you're operating as equal partners within an equal partnership and when there's a power dynamic at play. That's why I find the concept of porch time so helpful. This is used to communicate when a pause or temporary break from a DS dynamic is desired or needed. This usually happens when important vanilla conversations are necessary, such as bills or kids, or when legitimate issues within the partnership arise that must be addressed on equal footing. This small reprieve from the dynamic can also be used to wisely segregate Elements of role play, bratting, punishments, and even dynamic-based training, correction, and punishments from true and hurtful grievances that need to be discussed, or simply when one or both partners want or need a break from the DS dynamic. I also think it's important to negotiate if your DS interactions or BDSM scenes will be scheduled or spontaneous. Some submissives and bottoms really love the idea of not knowing when to expect a scene or play. It makes them feel like they have less control, and it contributes to their overall submissive arousal. It's a good thing. Others prefer knowing when a scene or DS engagement will take place, not only to mentally and emotionally prepare, but to lean into it as erotic anticipation. Some dominants and tops enjoy the freedom of unplanned scenes and letting kinky inspiration randomly strike. Others feel more empowered to have the time and space to plan, plot, and prepare for play. Remember, this is the kinky buffet. This is all about what you and your partner find tasty and appetizing to your unique palate. That's why in my new Power Exchange agreement for newbies, I've given you a way to craft a weekly or daily schedule or set parameters for spontaneous play with a formal transition time. Download it now at patreon.com/LXerotica. And finally, just like we determine the boundaries that will begin play or a power dynamic and what limits will trigger its premature end, noting aftercare needs is also a critical aspect of negotiation. This is the case because there must be a defined end point and some emotional closure where both partners know exactly when their low or high protocol arrangement has ended and when they're back into an equal partnership. This is the point in the negotiation to ask, how will we know when the scene has ended? How will we know when we're no longer operating in a DS dynamic? What does the dominant or top need to get grounded after a scene or play? What does the submissive need to get grounded after a scene or play? How much time does each partner need to rest and transition back into an equal partnership? What does each partner need to feel safe within the equal partnership and DS dynamic again? And if you want to expedite this process and make this negotiation as simple as possible, check out my Power Exchange bundle for newbies, which includes my brand new Power Exchange agreement, a 5-page guide that will walk you through a detailed negotiation process designed to build the foundation of your new DS dynamic so you can quickly cover all 4 areas of negotiation we discussed today. Just go over to patreon.com/LXerotica to get instant access. And be sure you're subscribed and have those notifications turned on so you won't miss anything new. And I'll see you in the next video.